live on Facebook. I don't know, I'm not sure where, who is looking. Hello, Facebook, and hello, you people. Nice of you to come out today. And, well.
Oh, we forgot to say you're at Knuckleheads tonight.
Oh, yeah.
We still have tickets available here.
Yeah, we still have tickets available for Knuckleheads tonight. That's with my group. And my group is not Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, although I never could get them to play Knuckleheads. You know, come on, and they'd play these stupid places like the casino across the river, and you do 55 minutes, and it's like, but Knuckleheads is the place to play. And it was really fun to do that. The group I have with me, though, is one previous Nitty Gritty Dirt Band member. So it's really been great meeting you people. I'm going to say goodbye. Somebody new came in. For my last song, no, it's the first one, is John Cable. He was with the band in the 70s when we were the first American group to go to Russia. And he's quite a wonderful songwriter and player. And another one is Les Thompson. He was with us when we played the Village Vanguard. Anybody here remember the Village Vanguard? There's one of the record, 2, 3, 4. Kansas City. Yeah, the Village Vanguard was a very hip club that preceded the Cowtown Ballroom. How many people remember Cowtown Ballroom? Oh yeah, that was a good time. The Cowtown Ballroom, the roller rink that was supposed to hold 1,800 people that usually held 2,200 or 2,300. And it was so crowded they couldn't clap like this, they had to clap like this. They couldn't laugh ho, 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 they had to laugh he, he. You know, it was so crowded that it was unbelievable because it was just a lot of fun. Those early 70s, Kansas City's got a place. We'd stay at the, come on in. We'd stay at the Kona Hawaiian, something like that. What is it? Kona Kai? Yeah. And we'd stay at that hotel and eat up their great food and go wait to play Cowtown. And Kansas, we sometimes came here on a day off, just because Kansas City was so much fun for us. And oh man, you remember Smokey? Smokey was the fire marshal at the. Well, he was a retired fire marshal, and he'd take the band to the stage. Everybody out of the way, the band's hot. He was the oldest guy in the building. He must have been 55 years old. It was a riot back then. He had a big flashlight and his fireman hat and everything. And yeah, the band's hot. I make it because they had the dressing room at the back of the room of the Cowtown, and the stage was at the other end. And you had to work your way through the crowd. One time we tried the balcony, one time we tried the floor. But we'd get to the stage, and it was just nothing but fun, really. In fact, one of our agents came from Denver to see one of the shows. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band played Cowtown Ballroom more than any other group. And we opened it, and we closed it.
We sat on the floor.
Pardon?
We sat on the floor.
Yeah.
Floor. Remember, there were seats in there.
You were on the floor?
Yeah.
No, not in the balcony. But it was really a good time. Smokey would take us to the stage every time, and it was like, doesn't have to get any better. But then it did, thankfully. And yeah, that time. Remember those times. I am a pilgrim and a stranger traveling through this wearisome land. I got a home in the that yonder city, good Lord, and it's not, Lord, it's not made by man. I've got a father and a sister who have gone to their sweet home. I just pray that I can go and see them, good Lord, over on that other shore. Me in a younger year, when I go down to the river of Jordan, just to bathe my weary soul, I just pray that I can go and see them, good Lord, over on that other shore. This is the guys I've told you about that are playing with me. When Les was 16, 17, he called me up and said, hey, the band's getting together at McEuen Guitar Shop in Long Beach. Why don't you come pick with us? And there I am, playing with the band. And just a few short years later, that put me in the studio with doing the Circle Be Unbroken. When I go down to the river of Jordan, now when I'm dead, laying in my coffin, all of my friends, both of my friends, all gathered round, they will say that he is laying there sleeping. Yeah, good Lord, sweet peace, yeah, his soul is found. I am a pilgrim and a stranger, traveling through this wearisome land. They were doing a bunch of strange music back then. When we first started playing, we were doing a lot of jug band music and things like. Somebody has the album that has the Collegiana on it. Who was that? I spaced out. You. Yeah. These people had never heard Collegiana. It was not on that album you got. No. It's Collegiana is one of the coolest songs ever written. It was written by the Lennon and McCartney of the day, and it was one. We tried rehearsing this. We rehearsed this song for 2 days, and we did it about 5 times, but it never went over. And I remember when we were first rehearsing it, we were opening for Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry. Does anybody remember them? All right, good. And we went up in the dressing room, and Sonny was sitting there with his harmonica. He was blind, and he was playing his harmonica all the time. Jimmy liked to play like him. And he said, boys, you got to remember something about this music. They got to know when it starts, and they got to know when it ends, so they know when to clap. It's in the middle you fool around. And he was giving us such good advice. It was hard to ignore. And Collegiata had some of the, on the campus they tried to vamp us with anything new. And, see if I remember. On the campus they tried, on the campus they try as a pampas with anything new, anything new. My diploma is now in a coma. My studying too is pretty it through. I've found a new collegiate hop. Dance till I drop, I'll never stop. If you want to see what is getting me, I'll show you how to do collegiate. See how it's done. Easy as pie and lots of fun. You never have to study this muddy water hop. Miss Pollyanna never was glad until she grabbed an undergrad and did Collegiana, 'cause it was something great. Cornell, Dartmouth, and Pennsylvania all got the mania and how. Two-step, new-step, you'll get along with me. Get a new degree dancing. You're gonna burn up, turn up your heels. Air your books, you begin to feel. Air your books means throw them up in the air. Air your books, you begin to feel. Got the new Hosanna, Collegiana real. Collegiana started at Yale, spread out to Princeton, Tiger Tail. Murdered them at Harvard, dazzled old Penn State. Army, Navy, and Notre Dame started to dance and spread the fame of this Collegiana, 'cause it was something great. Cornell, Dartmouth, and Pennsylvania all got the mania and how. Out at Lehigh, Lehigh to step to it, lots of pep to it. Hear me, you're gonna burn up, turn up your heels. Air your books, you begin to feel. Got the new Hosanna, Collegiana real. Thank you. The first time that song has been done in this town since 1968. I think we might have done it here. And the only other person that recorded that was Fred Waring in 1928. And it was really something to have a song that Fred Waring had done. It had more notes to it. Any questions? May as well get into that. Yes,
What's
sir.
the story on that guitar?
All these years I've been playing. What's the guitar?
It's a very interesting.
Yes, it is. It was made in South Africa, and it's made to be able to go up that high and tune. Whoop. And it's really a neat guitar. Yes, sir.
I've seen you with the band, the whole band before, Nitty Gritty, but I saw you come in with your son Jonathan one time.
Uh-huh.
And he's a great player too. But do you
He's
still
a
get
great
to,
player.
Do you get to play with him still some? Or?
I haven't played with him in a year, and I took him out with me for 6 or 7, no, 8 or 9 years actually. We did about 1,000 shows together, and I told him one time, "You're fired." And he said, "Well, why is that?" I didn't quite say you're fired. I said, "I don't think you should play with me anymore," because he needed to work on his own career, and every show that he did with me would be one less show for him. You know, there's only so many places you can play and so many notes and all that. And he did. He went out and started working on his own and started developing it. He became, you don't have 24 letters and whatever it is, 12 notes and 24 letters. Hello, store person? Yeah. Matt? You don't have an album by Dave Mason called 24 letters and 12 notes, do you? We can ask him later. He's so turning. He's not paying attention. But he became Dave Mason's favorite guitar player for several years and played on his album and did all the leads and stuff. And it was really a cool thing. But thanks for asking. He's off working on his own and doing things that bring attention to him, as well as should.
We have it on CD.
You do? Oh, that's interesting. Great. Yeah, it's one of Dave's recent albums of maybe 4 years ago. And Dave's living in Ojai, California, and Jonathan was living in Ojai, and they struck up a relationship maybe 10 years ago. And it's a strange business. You never know who you're going to end up getting to know. And I have a book out called The Life I've Picked. Such an easy title. It took me 2 years to figure out the title for the book. I spent 10 years writing it. And okay, here's some titles. Off the Dirt Road, or On the Dirt Road, and Off and On the Dirt Road. The road less traveled, and, you know, things like that. And it just had all kinds of titles, 2 pages of titles that I ended up, when I got the final manuscript, I mean, I wrote the book, but I had a great editor that would take my 800 words and turn it into 600 and not lose anything. And it made me able to put more in the book. And that's it?
That's it.
Oh, that's cool.
26 letters in 12 minutes.
Yeah. Did I say 24? No,
You
12.
dropped 2 of them?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, that's good. Somebody ought to pick that up. Jonathan's playing all the lead and Mason's doing one of his songs too. And anyway, I wrote this book, and it has a bunch of stories in it about being on the road and being off the road and trying to figure out what the road is. But it's, for me, it's you people that brought me a life of doing things that led to very strange occurrences. Things like, oh, so many things. Little Rock Connie, you know, last night in Little Rock we were doing our act. Connie had the whole band. It's a natural fact. You know that Little Rock Connie? And that's in the, what is the band?
Grand Funk.
Yeah, Grand Funk Railroad, right. Yeah, I mean, when you're, I put together a benefit once in Arkansas to raise money for diabetes, and a girl in particular that had it in that town. And it sold out, and the Dirt Band was there in the mid-70s, and this girl comes up to me and, why did I get into this? How do I say this? I haven't done it in public before. Come on in. And she comes up to me and says, I can give you, first of all, she goes, nice, aren't they? And I don't know who you are, but my name's Connie, and I want to give you the best job you've ever had. And I've never talked about this in front of people. I'm turning red, I think. And I told her I'm not in the market. I've got 4 kids at home, you know, and a wife that's, anyway. But we got to be friends. And I set her up with some of the musicians in the band. And I said, here, that's the road manager, that's the guitar player. And look, we're friends here, right? You know that I don't usually say these kind of words, but, you know, hey, Connie, this is John. Man, yeah. I mean, actually, I said, see that girl over there? Oh, yeah, she's perfect. Oh, I'd sure like to fuck her. Anyway, that's what he said. And I walked over to Connie. I said, Connie, this is John. He wants to fuck you. And she goes, now? Or after the show. I took his name out of the book because that story is in there. And now he wishes that he was in the book. Can you redo that and leave my name in the book? And anyway, oh God, okay. What I did was I set Connie up with other people. She comes see me all the time. I found out the first night that I was turning her down. I said, look, I'll find you a nice German Shepherd or something. And yeah, it was like, ugh. And she started crying. And I found out then that it wasn't my job to criticize somebody's passion for something, especially when it was going to be liked by so many guys, living a hard road life or whatever. It just wasn't my job. I said, oh, I'm sorry, don't feel that way. And just, okay, I'm not the one, but he's the one that he'll and him. She wanted to be in Esquire magazine as the woman that gave more of those jobs to the highest number of people ever in the history of time. And she made it. She had an article in Esquire, and you know, it was so funny. I can't go into that. Okay, the rest in the book, the life I picked, and but she'd show up every now and then, and I know that somebody named Bill knew hers, I'm sure. Mr. Clinton. Okay, yeah, goodbye, Connie. But then it also went on to relationships with Bill Wyman. Wasn't a relationship as much as I just played on this session. Leon Russell called me up. I got to be friends with him in the 60s when he first came to the Dirt Band rehearsal. We were opening for Merle Travis, and it was quite an exciting thing to be opening for Merle Travis. Nobody knew who Leon Russell was in 1966. He just finished playing piano on This Diamond Ring by Gary Lewis and the Playboys, which thankfully did not make it to the classic rock stations ever, really. This diamond ring doesn't shine anymore. Anyway, but he made that record a hit. And my mom became a huge Leon Russell fan. I told her I met this guy that plays piano that wanted to sign us to a record label. We told him we'd already signed. And anyway, she called me up from a Leon Russell concert once and said, "Oh, Johnny, there's 8,000 people here. You know how I love it when he plays the piano and sings. He's just so good." She really loved his voice and his piano playing. "Oh, and you know how I hate it when people smoke. Everybody's smoking and it doesn't bother me at all." She never knew. She never knew. And anyway, and Leon called me up. You know, being in a band is a tough thing. You know, you've got all these personalities, and each one wants to take the group to a certain area. I was allowed, worked it out, whatever, to make the Circle album. Jeff told me, a couple of years after that album came out, he said, "You know, if I'd been in charge, I would have not done that album." I said, "Yeah, I know. That's why we didn't tell you for 3 weeks that what was coming together." The way that came together was I asked Doc Watson one time actually I asked Earl first, Earl Scruggs, in June of 1970 if he'd record with the Dirt Band. And he said, "I'd be proud to." And I just couldn't go to sleep that night. Called my brother and said, "Earl said yes." I told him what I was going to do, and then I saw Doc Watson at the same Colorado club. It was about a week later, and I said, "We're making an album with Earl Scruggs." And he said, "Well, I want to be there." And Bill called Merle Travis, and the record company guy at Capitol Records said, "Oh, yeah, go ahead and call him. We don't care. We can't stand the guy." Can you imagine a record company president saying that about his artist? Well, we got plans. So we had 3. And hey, Earl, do you think you could get maybe Jimmy Martin? Well, Louise Scruggs got Jimmy Martin for us, and that's Earl's wife. She was managing, and then it was like, "Can you get Maybelle Carter, maybe?" And Roy Acuff was one that we wanted, and he got them all lined up and interviews with them, and 8 weeks later we started recording, and we made the album in 5 days, 34 songs, and then we played back. It was done on 2-track. That's one reason it was so clear sounding. We had a multi-track set up on the first song. It was Merle Travis doing "I Am a Pilgrim," and he nailed it. He got it in one take. Oh, okay, next song. Well, because it only took 3.5 minutes. We were accustomed to, one of the songs on Uncle Charlie we did 17 takes on and then started over. You know, it was just, we were recording in the old, well, what became the stupid way, the old-fashioned way that was new fashioned because multi-track had just come along, and you take advantage of it. Now let's do the rhythm guitar. Let's do the rhythm guitar again. Let's do the snare drum. You know, and it actually got to where recording, I actually remember asking one of the guys when he was going home for a day off in the 80s, I said, hey, so you're going to be gone for a couple days? Yeah, then I'm going to come back. I'm going to do the snare drum and one of the harmony parts over. Oh, okay. Why didn't you get them right the first time? I'm thinking, you know, well, why do them over? Why? Roy Acuff's telling us, get it right the first time and the hell with the rest of them, was really good advice. And because you do lose a certain amount of energy by putting time into it. Any questions we have? Anything? Yes, sir.
What influence did the Dillards have on your music?
The Dillards were one of the main things. Well, my brother and the Dillards. My brother got me playing guitar. I was playing guitar kind of like this. Guitar like that. It was way before I could go. And so I was working on guitar, and then also I didn't know even what chords I was playing. I was just playing the notes. You know, played about 6 months, and I went to see a group called the Dillards, from Salem, Missouri. Went to his folk club that somebody had drugged me to when I was 17, and it was just amazing. I was waiting to go to college, and the Dillards was in the summer of my 17th year, and yeah, I was sitting there at the table. You know how somebody will sit and their leg will do this jumping thing? Mine never did that. Never. I was bothered by the guy at school next to me. His leg was always jumping like this. Would you quit doing that? You know, I wanted to say, but I didn't. And both of my legs were doing this. It's like, what's going on here? They're both like nervous or something. My hands were sweaty. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from Salem, Missouri, the Dillards, please make welcome. And they went out and they started off Hickory Hollow, and I just went, that's what I'm going to do. And it really took me away. It was an epiphany moment for sure. And from that point on, Rodney Dillard became a lifelong friend. I mean, it was over the next year that I would end up in the dressing room. It got to the point where I'm sitting there reading, and they'd come in. They were used to having me hanging around. And I never asked Doug to show me anything, but he'd look at me and go. And I say, I never heard you play lead on the 4-string like that. Where did you get that idea? And he'd go, J.D. Crowe, Jimmy Martin, check him out. You know, and something else, he'd show me how to. I said, where'd you get that idea? Running those notes like that. Bill Keith, check him out. And I'd go check him out. And sure enough, there was somebody to listen to. And so thanks to the Dillards, I got into music, and that's the reason I'm sitting right here. I'm going to sue them for malpractice. But it's a neat thing. Thank you for the question. The Dillards don't get enough credit. I'm having Rodney play a show with me next Monday at the Appalachian Theater for the High Country. It's a reopening of the new Performing Arts Center. It's almost sold out, 800 seats. And it's going to be, they're having me open it up with the story of the Circle album and the footage and everything. And some of the band member guys, and Rodney Dillard's, I call him up, you gotta come here and play with me, Rodney. He goes, oh, I'll be there. And he played down in Cape Girardeau last year. And anyway, so that's the Dillards. He's the last Dillard standing. The others have passed away.
You ended up in Aspen, Colorado.
Pardon?
You ended up in Aspen, Colorado.
I never made it to Aspen.
You
It was
didn't? I thought that's where you
my brother made it to Aspen, and Jimmy Ibbotson and Jeff made it to Aspen, and I moved to Idaho Springs, which was
okay.
in Clear Creek County. Aspen was the only town that had a drug and bugle corps at the school. That's the way I always put it. Drug and bugle corps. And it just seemed that it wasn't a town for kids, it was an adult town. It later became one with kids, and they were, you know, when cocaine became popular, Aspen, I wasn't into it. I didn't have very many friends back then in the music, in the business.
But Steve
I have-
Martin,
pardon?
you're tied to Steve Martin. You and Steve Martin are friends.
Steve lived up there for a couple years. He had a house. And Steve was being managed by my brother, and he played the Village Vanguard with us, I think, and the Cowtown Ballroom. And yeah, and the Aspen thing was just kind of the advent of the Coke in about 74 or something, or 3 or something. And everybody thought it was cool. Yeah. Isn't that illegal? Oh, well, yeah. But so is running a traffic light and whatever. You know. It was like just nothing. And see, cocaine, I learned many years back, the first thing it does is it deadens your ears. So you don't hear. You hear, but you can turn up the top end and have it crunch much better, because you're not going to have it hurt you. And when you sing, you lose your top 2 or 3 notes, and you're a couple before that are having trouble. And I asked Jeff one time, after he mixed an album called Jealousy, why does it sound like shit? No other way to put it. It sounded, he brought me that he was producing the first album that he produced, an album called Jealousy in 1980, I think it was. And I said to him, you were doing a lot of coke when you were mixing, weren't you? Well, what do you mean? What do you say that for? What you know, well, listen to it. And it had so much top end, and had so much level. The needle would have, I said, the needle's going to jump off the record, or half the record players, because you've got so much level on the outside track that when it gets to the inside, unless you have a quarter on the arm, it's not going to, you know, and it's too tinny. It's so tinny, and there's so much echo. You know, it makes you perceive everything differently. And he ended up remixing it, spending $50,000 at record plant in New York, in L.A., San Francisco. There's 3 record plants. They mixed it at record plant in San Francisco. I said, what makes me think you were doing coke? Let's see, you're at record plant, the Coke Distribution Center of California, and whatever. And $50,000 spent on a record company advance. That was our money. That was the money I could have made from divided by 5, you know, $10,000. And so I ended up. I think that album cost $230,000, and I made 2. And we were off the road for 6 months making the record. There's no income coming in. And you go out and do a couple of dates here and there, but you take off from November to May, and you know, and to make the album, and it comes out like that. And it's the least selling record too. Yeah. Steve Lukather was on that record. Do you know who that is?
Who?
Oh, and I met Steve Lukather was a big deal. Steve Lukather, we got him. He's going to come play lead on a song. It took Jeff about maybe a month to learn the solo that he played. And I ran into Steve Lukather in the mid-90s. Well, I was watching Steve Vai play in Anaheim, and Steve Vai was really great. He's an electric guitar player. I mean, we get along great, Steve Vai and I, because we actually did dueling banjos one time. You know, I go, and he goes, all over the place. And whatever. And anyway, it was fun to get to the, okay now. He played the chords along. But I was watching him. You gotta come out to one of my shows, man. He's such a straight guy. 2 glasses of orange juice is a lot for him. You know, because he worked with Zappa. Now Zappa was a straight guy. You know that, right? Well, he was. You know Frank Zappa. Well, Zappa. If you were doing alternative drugs or whatever they're called, you weren't around him very long. You could do it outside on your own or whatever, but if you keep, he was a serious musician. He wrote his stuff out. When Steve went to apply for the job with Zappa, he was 17 years old, and he put the sheet music in front of him and said, "Play that." And Steve, he started reading when he was 4 years old, 5 years old, and he could handle it, and he got the job. And so I'm watching Steve Vai play, and this guy comes up to me and asks me, my name is Steve Lukather. I want to say you've been such an inspiration to me over the years. I just wanted to thank you for that. Oh, okay, great. I hear that a lot. And I said, okay, great. I'm sitting there, Steve Lukather? You said Steve Lukather? Don't you play guitar with Toto and you play that screaming rock and roll stuff? I play the banjo. I'm the banjo player. He goes, no, I know who you are. I know exactly who you are. And I meant everything I said. Can you tell me why? Well, you don't remember. I was in 6th grade, and you came to my school one time and did a little demonstration of 3 different instruments. I took a mandolin and a fiddle and a banjo. Oh, and a guitar. And no, I didn't remember. He said, I'd been playing guitar about 2 years at the time, and it was boring. But you had so much fun playing that I went home and started practicing so I could get good enough to be on stage and do what you do. And I thought that was really cool. You never know where this influence is going to go, you know? Where and now he's managing not Little Feat, Toto. But that was a good thing. And any other questions? We got to have somebody that had a question. That's why you're here, maybe.
Did you ever appear with Doug Kershaw?
Played with Kershaw many times, but before we played with Doug Kershaw, we were watching him. I was watching him. I was imitating Doug Kershaw with the fiddle. I figured if I suck at the fiddle, they're going to like me better if I move it around. And whatever, like that, it was like, besides, I couldn't hold still. Some of the footage of me playing fiddle shows me like running across the stage and jumping from risers and stuff. And it was, and then it got to be more and more fun. I wanted to see where I could take it. And about 10 years ago, I went, well, how can I be a fiddle player instead of a show business fiddle player? As long as I'm better than Charlie Daniels, I'm okay. But he's not that good at it. You know, he looks good, I guess. favorite thing about Charlie Daniels was when Beavis and Butthead one time, where Beavis and Butthead thing was on TV and we're watching, and Charlie Daniels comes on the little TV screen and Beavis says, "Who's the fat guy with the fiddle?" But it was not to put Charlie down because he wrote some great songs, but he wasn't the fiddle player. The best way I can describe the fiddle playing, Merle Haggard one time was at a festival, and we were the Dirt Band was on a show with about 8 acts, and Haggard was one of the acts, and I had to go meet him. And I knocked on his bus door. Is Mr. Haggard in? My name's John McEuen. And right then I heard this guy inside from the back yell, "John McEuen, get in here. I've always wanted to meet you." And it was like, oh man, okay, well good. And so he knew of me, which I had no idea. I mean, this is Merle Haggard, you know. We sat and we talked about fiddle players, about how we were not nearly as good as some of the people we hired, you know. Oh, that Johnny Gimble, he's played for me, and oh, Vassar Clements, and you know, all the people that we aspired to be like. But we were happy with what we did. And that was the Doug Kershaw. There was one review that the Dirt Band got, John McEwen's shameless aping of Doug Kershaw. I remember that. That was back in the early 70s. But see, we had I didn't start playing until '69. Poor Jimmy Evanson. We used to drive to rehearsal every day, and I'd sit in the back of his Dodge Dart. I mean, this far from his head, practicing, learning how to play, figuring out, you know, I was like, oh, God. I didn't start playing until I was 24, 23, or 24 or 5, I guess. But I got pretty mediocre. I'm glad of that. I'm mediocre at a good level, and I like to use it. That's my fiddle playing. I'll never be Stuart Duncan or some of these guys, Michael Cleveland. But I have fun with it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's your favorite song to play?
Well, you know, it's not. I don't know.
All of
Bojangles is one of my favorites to play.
Yeah.
But I like a lot of music. It's really a hard choice to go favorite. I think Frailing the Banjo by myself is a particular fun because I don't have my banjo with me, but playing the guitar is really fun. It's I'm going to an open tuning right now. There's my tuner. Finding new notes that other people haven't played is an exciting thing to do. To think that they're going to reach people. For instance, well, let me go to D minor tuning. Yeah. For instance, Long Hard Road, the first song the Dirt Band had on the top 10 to make it to number 1. Took 17 years. Thanks to Rodney Crowell bringing us the song. I started off in detuning with Jimmy Edmondson singing, and I like to think of the instrument is supposed to support the vocal. The way the song started, it started with guitar and voice, Ibby's incredible voice. But here's some other things I've done with detuning.
There's an online question for you, which is probably because you're sitting smack in front of an Abbey Road big photo thing behind you.
Oh.
Didn't know you were playing in the middle of Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Person online wanted to know if you've heard the new remastered Abbey Road and what do you think of it?
Oh, I haven't heard that yet, no. But I think Abbey Road was a great album. And I can't even remember quite what was on it. That came out after Hey Jude, right? And Hey Jude was not on an album, it was only a single, right?
A later one, didn't it?
Yeah, it was Hey Jude. We were doing Paint Your Wagon when Hey Jude came out. And then Abbey Road, I think, was, and also when music from Big Pink came out. And we did Paint Your Wagon, and it was like, it broke the Dirt Band up after 4 months on the set, being around everybody, waiting to do our few minutes of music. We were in various scenes, but we got back together. Jeff and I looked at each other once we were watching Poco at the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach, which was really a wonderful experience. I mean, the early Poco, you know, Richie Furay and Randy Meisner and Messina and all of them were really, they were hot. Boy, they were hot. And let's get the Dirt Band back together and find a singing drummer. And we did, and that's when we found Jimmy Edmondson. And I don't know how that figures into your Abbey Road question, but oh, I remember, because we were during Paint Your Wagon, the music from Big Pink, when we started putting the Uncle Charlie together, you know, we can play drums with mandolin. We can play electric guitar with banjo and mandolin. There's a big influence on us. it helped guide us to what was fun. And then what was really fun is years later, Levon Helm became a good friend. And I did the first film score for Levon Helm. It was a B movie kind of thing, but he was playing the part of the sheriff, and I was really proud of the fact that Garth Hudson tried to get the scoring job and he didn't get it. I got it. And so I did my first film score, and my first film score I had Lowlands, you know. Vince Gill sing Lowlands with the Nashville Symphony backing him up. And Vince Gill was only about, I could have got him for $200, but I gave him $500. Nobody had heard of him yet. Vince Gill was still a bluegrass player from a fiddle band. And RCA was just starting to make his career happen. And it was really neat. I'd known Vince since he was 17, playing in, just backing in Byron Berline's band. He opened for us, playing rhythm guitar, behind this fiddle music, and Byron Berline is a great fiddle player. One of those guys that I talked about, to Merle Haggard. And so when we put the Uncle Charlie together, it was with sensibilities of that album, and the Big Pink album, and Hey Jude, and just somehow that big mess of stuff kind of collects to where, well, we got it right on this one, and we should have left that one out, and you know, you try and figure out. Let me play a fiddle tune for you. Called Fisher's Hornpipe. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You ever have any interaction with Bob Dylan?
With who?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan?
Ever heard it?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I thought you said something else. There's been 4 times, I think. The first time I was 21 years old, and the partner at a club had called me up, and the Golden Bear partner. He was one of the partners of the Golden Bear. He wasn't my partner. I was just a guy with a fledgling band. And he said, I need $2,000. And I came up with $2,000 to partner with him to do a Bob Dylan show. And I hired Bob Dylan for $4,000 to play a high school. It was when the Freewheelin' album was out. And my dad, I had to go to get the loan to borrow the money. I said, Dad, would you, there's this guy named Bob Dylan, he's going to be really big, I think, and he's got an album, and he's going to, he put up the money. I paid it back 6 weeks later, and I made $2,400. I doubled my money plus. And I didn't meet him. I just saw him come in, and I had the front row seat, and that was pretty cool. I could see the side door of the theater, see this guy get out of the car with a guitar and a harp rack, and he'd get out of the car and walk straight to the stage and sing for an hour and 15 minutes, and he walked out with $4,000. I like this job. I want to get that job. he just gone $4,000. And anyway, a few years down the road, I ran into him, and there was one concert that he was at, and Dylan walked with blinders on because he had so many people after him, you know, that were needed to talk to him or wanted to talk to him or tell him. He was just a songwriter. In his book, he really describes it well. They called me up to come speak at the marches. What am I going to say? I'm a songwriter. Well, you've written a song. Well, I got to take my kids to the beach. You know, he was worried about things like that. And he said, I had people on the roof of my house at 2 in the morning saying, Bob, I got to talk. You know, and he says, I'm just writing songs. And then I saw him, Rolling Thunder Review. I think Leon Russell was playing. No, he wasn't on that one. But it was Kinky Friedman and a whole bunch of people. Joan Baez. And Joan's out there with their guitar, and Bob's on stage with her. And they're doing the sound check, right? And they're trying to get her guitar to work. I don't know. I said, and I'm sitting there, I'm on the front of the stage like this, just watching. And every now and then, here's Bob and Joan looking, and 4 or 5 crew people trying to figure out how to plug in the direct box. And I had the same direct box, a Marcus Berry's 4-channel, blah, blah, blah. And I said, take the plug that you've got plugged in the back and plug it into front number 1 and plug the one that's in number 1 in the back. And Bob looked over at me, and I was so confident about what I was saying, and he looked at me and he, what he said. I said, do what he said. You know? And they did it, and it worked. And thank you. You're welcome. And then I went backstage and hung out. Best time to go to a concert is during sound check. You know, you can get into anywhere. I swear.
What time's your sound check?
The sound check's at 4 o'clock.
Yours is at 4?
I believe so.
Okay, we'll be there.
Well, knuckleheads, anybody can get in anywhere. That's a great thing about knuckleheads. One time, one of my kids was on the road following Fish around. You know the band named Fish? Oh, they're a pretty cool group. And, Dad, you ought to come see the band. They're getting bigger now. I went to see them in Salt Lake at the Salt Palace, which isn't a palace, and it is a small club that's on the edge of Salt Lake, and holds about 500. And then years later, a couple years, maybe just a year and a half. But anyway, they come see them. I said, okay, you pick a city, and I'll meet you there. So I picked Sacramento, and I go, okay, I'll fly into Sacramento. I get to Sacramento, and I'm looking through the paper for the Fish concert. I look at all the clubs, and it's Fish, full page ad. Fish concert, Arco Arena, sold out. Arco Arena holds 12,000 people, you know, and Fish is sold out. And I said, I reached him. I don't know how we did it back then because we didn't have cell phones. But I reached him, and anyway, and I said, well, same plan. Meet me at 4 o'clock, wherever the load-in door is. And sure enough, we're at the load-in door, and how do you know they're going to be here? Look, it's 10 to 4. They are here. Well, they're not going to be here. One of the kids, Nathan, the younger one, bails out, and he goes up to try and buy a ticket. And 5 to 4, 4 to 4. Hear that sound? Ah, the low hum of the diesel engine in the distance. Ah, here comes the bus. 2 minutes to 4, the bus pulls up. Trey steps off the bus. He's going, Dad, that's Trey in the front. That's the fish bus. They're all on there. Trey gets off the bus and says, hey, John McEuen, you going to sit in with us tonight? And then, well, if you get me and my kid in, I'll bring my stuff in. And yeah, I'll go get his stuff. So we went in and watched the sound check, and I ended up playing on 4 or 5 songs. No, wait a minute, it might be like 8, second half of the show. And I learned something that night, because Fish audience, they're playing this 20-minute instrumental. And in the middle of it, everybody goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody, all 12,000 people, they knew where they were, you know, and it would just crack me up. Because I couldn't believe that they knew where they were. And back in the dressing room, I'm messing around with my lap steel, going, bing, 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 playing some harmonic things, you know, just to, and Trey goes, that's really cool. Can you play Amazing Grace? And he goes, can you do that in the show? Yeah, sure, I guess so. Okay, well, open the second half of the show with it. Just you and me. And I went, what? No, and so they did Amazing Grace. And he was writing the set list down, and I learned a very important lesson about music here. You're writing the set list down. Oh yeah, I just want to make sure we don't repeat any songs. You mean from last night? No, this week. They had done a different set every 7 shows, a different set of music. And it was just amazing. They were really good. And I ended up going, a couple of days later, they're going to be in Vegas. I said, yeah, come by Vegas. Okay, great, I'll sit in there too. Okay, and I'm driving to Vegas, and I pull over to a rest area, and there's a VW bus with flowers on it, and there's some Fish fans. There's this little girl, about 20 years old, and one of the kids goes, that's a Fish fan. Yeah, they're probably going to the Vegas show. And oh yeah, I see. Yeah, because the people would follow them around. And this girl comes up to me and goes, pardon me, sir. I was wondering, are you the old folk dude that sat in with Fish? Yes, dear, I'm the old folk dude. That just cracks me up. Yes, sir.
Do you have any Branson stories?
Any what?
Branson. Did you appear in Branson, Missouri? Ever?
No, Branson is where Rodney Howard lives, and I played there for 2 weeks once and had all my kids there, and that was mainly just I had a booking, and you know, I'd pull up, the Dirt Band never wanted to play Branson. They did a few times, but Silver Dollar City was cool. It was always cool. But no real stories, because I could play a little solo. You know, the solo thing is good in some places and better in some other. Branson's not one of my strong things. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just kind of wondering, have you ever played Whiskey A Go-Go? And I'm going to Nashville next week, and is there any place, like I'm thinking of Wayman Theater, but any place that you played that gives you just a wow factor?
Next question. In Nashville?
No, anywhere. I mean, where you played that gives you just a real wow factor, like.
A real wow factor.
Yeah, like wow.
Oh well, yeah. There's a lot of them. The Cowtown Ballroom was that, but more recently, it's a couple nights ago in Alma, Oklahoma. There's a beautiful performing arts center, and then 2 days before that in Pocatello, Idaho, and one time in St. Joseph, Missouri. Not so much. Don't ever go to St. Joe. And the Frog Hop Ballroom, you know, that is like down the other end of the scale. When you get to the place and the restrooms are backed up and water's flowing down, anyway. And there's that in Dothan, Alabama on the other end of the scale. But on the positive end, it's usually, it doesn't matter how many people are there. If you're out there and you're doing something, and if it sucks, it might be you, you know. You have to go to look at from your viewpoint to you're the guy on stage, you're the entertainer, you're the one that's saying things like, yeah, we went to a town in Germany and I was on a trip to Germany. I went to 8 different cities. One of them was a small town where the German Shepherd was first raised. A little town in Germany called Offenbarken. You bring things like that out to people, and it's a fun thing to do. That you can turn any place. I like to turn a place into. I like it when the room knows it's not where they are. They just are there, and there's you. And excuse me, my phone is ringing. Talk right now. Okay. And One World Theater in Austin is a neat place. Things have to come to mind. Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago is a good one. But then so is the one in Woodstock in Illinois, the Opera House. I know there's been some exciting places that stood out, but I'm very lucky to play any of them, and I still do. And,
Knuckleheads that you're playing tonight.
and Knuckleheads is really, I'll tell you, Frank is one of the last, there's Frank, there's Phil Saganer, there's Bob Stain, and Phil Saganer's in New York. He has a club called the Town Crier. He's had it for 35 years. He's had everybody from John Prine and Emmylou Harris to guitar players and singers, and over the years. And then there's Bob Stain in L.A. running the Coffee Gallery, and that holds 60 people. And I play for him because he's the first guy that ever paid me to play. and he used to run the Ice House, and those are really nice. And Bob's always a fun. It's like a visit to. I played there 2 weeks ago, on a Monday night. Sold out in 1 hour, And then add a show. Sold out in 2 hours. It's only 60 seats, but to do that on a Monday, sell out a 4 o'clock show in 2 hours was. Yes, he's going to do another show. Okay, great. And so that's a favorite place. It's the people that make it the favorite place, I believe. And that was it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You ever do Palomino?
I'm sorry?
Palomino in Los Angeles?
That was in Los Angeles, yeah.
You ever do it?
Well, the Troubadour, but the whiskey and those places, the Troubadour was okay, but usually Greek theater in LA is good. But I don't qualify for that. I might open there for somebody sometime. was an instrumental I did on the Brooklyn album, but it has a bunch of people like Andy Gessler from the band Railroad Earth, John Carter Cash, Steve Martin I mentioned, Matt, cartoonist, bass player, John Cowan. John Cowan sings one of the songs. We might be done here. Has it been, what time is it?
2:15.
2:15? 3:15?
2:15.
1:15?
Actually, it's 4 o'clock, we're gonna meet the sound check, right?
Yeah, I gotta leave pretty soon for sound check. Is there any other questions? Yep.
When do you want me there?
Pardon?
When do you want me there?
Oh, you don't sound check a washboard.
What?
Dan's from River Rock, is gonna play with us tonight on a few songs and doing percussion. Yes, sir.
Circle Be Unbroken,
What about
LP. It is going to be coming in.
it? They are?
They will not be here today.
Oh, okay.
So if you buy the album, which is $59, you will get a ticket to tonight's show for free. But the album will be coming in probably in 3 or 4 days. There is a problem with Universal's warehouse. Now the question is, do I chase you down with all of them and have you sign them before we send them out? We can work on those logistics.
Oh. Well, you could buy the CD that I brought. You were out of those too, but I would be glad to do that. You could send them to my house. It might take 10 days to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but I would send them back.
So, if you want, it is the remastered version of Will the Circle Be Unbroken. It is not the original 1972 copy. Sorry, we don't.
It sounds better than the original. I remastered it myself. I stole it from the company, the master, because, well, they didn't deserve to have it. My brother had it. In '76, we made an album called Dirt, Silver, and Gold, which the purpose was to get the masters of the Circle. Oh, we're putting together a compilation record, and we need the masters. I got all the masters and kept them. And since the Circle album was just straight to a master, there's no copy. There were copies made, and they remastered. They put out extra copies in the '80s that were made from a copy of a copy. So you were 2 steps away, and they reversed the stereo for some reason. And I got all those off the market when I remastered the 30th year anniversary issue. And when I asked the lady at the company, she said, "Why do you have those masters, John?" I said, "Well, Betsy, where's the artwork?" And, "Well, we lost the artwork. The Grammy-nominated artwork you lost." Okay. Do you want to ask that first question again? Okay, well, I could hear her shut the door to her office when she asked the question. "Why do you have the master?" Well, I didn't think the company should have them. I've been watching over them.
Saved you from the fire.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Especially they would have gone up in that fire, most likely. That was an LA record deal that I was very proud of, to go to Nashville, the Los Angeles record company. It works. Anyway, it works. So if you want to buy one of the Made in Brooklyn CDs, they're over there, and it is also, it's a good record. That's all I can say. It's my favorite one, actually, of the current crop. And anyway, if there's no more questions, I guess we could be done.